We'll start tonight's City of Olivet Planning and Community Design Commission for June 26th to order. Thanks, everybody, for being in attendance. We appreciate that. Mr. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Member Tim Spiegelglass.
Present.
Member Laura Ragsdale.
Absent.
Member Petrie Powell.
Present.
Member Jenna Nat.
Absent. I'll explain that one later.
Secretary Sam Wallach, present. And Chairman Rob Jagel.
Present. All right, let it also be known that our City Council liaison, Councilmember Brian Lewis, is in attendance. Appreciate it. Staff liaisons, Carlos Trejo, Olivet's Director of the Planning and Community Development Department. Jack Carswell, Planning and Zoning Administrator. Dawn is taking a vacation day.
9 out. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Good. All right. Once again, thanks everybody for being in attendance. Appreciate it. Just so you guys know how these meetings go, we follow the agenda system. We go through each petition kind of one by one, or a discussion item might be there as well. We do have time at the beginning of the meeting for general comments that are related, that are for items or issues that are not related to the agenda items. When we go through, if somebody has a public comment that's related to that petition, we'll have a time when we're at that item number to go over that. And typically, when we have a petition that comes up, there'll be a staff report that will be discussed by members of staff, and then there'll be some discussion and answer between commission members and staff. We typically bring on the petitioner to kind of help answer a few questions. And at that point in time afterwards, we ask for public comments related to that agenda item. So Carlos, do we have anybody online?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay, good. I see Mike.
Mike Niddle, and he's right here and
Oh.
Also has it open at home. So.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Well, if somebody at home has a question, we ask you to raise your hand, if you're online. There's a button at the bottom of the Zoom. And then if you do raise your hand, we'll bring you up to the panelists. And by default, your microphone and your camera will be off, and we do ask you to be looking for that, to try to turn those on and get both the camera and the mic, because it speeds things up. Otherwise, we're trying to explain it while we're doing it. So, all right. Any questions? Good. Then we'll move on. We'll go to public comments. Is there anyone in the audience or online that has a public comment that's not related to the agenda item? Seeing none here?
Chairman, outside of that, just some public announcements, if that's okay.
Well, that'd be great.
Just a couple of things. The City of Olivet actually this Tuesday adopted the 2021 International Code Council ICC building codes along with the fire department. So we are now going to the 2021 codes. All the petitions that are on here for tonight will be under the 2015. And there we also adjusted our fee schedule. So again, I do want to stress it won't impact the permitting for any of the petitions that were received for the commission review in June. So anything new that does come in for the commission, we'll be informing them that they have to be to the 2021 codes.
Good.
In there. In addition to that, we just want to make sure the developers here in there that they're aware of the need to maintain their properties throughout construction, whether it's high grass, please get that addressed, dirt on the streets or siltation. It's important to be cognizant of your neighbors, there are residents and all that, and to make sure you address those concerns and follow up on your properties. Then again, the City of Olivet does have a comprehensive plan. It's a 2024 update. And this is just a little view of what our community, we do have a vision statement, some goals and objectives for the community for the next 20 years. And just want to make sure people are informed. It's all accessible on our website and of course in staff. So.
May not sound like an exciting read, but it really actually is. There's a lot of good information in there too about the dynamics of the makeup of the community as well. It's actually very interesting. So if you do get a chance, download it and just kind of flip through it, you might find something that's pretty interesting. All right. Moving on, Carlos?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to old business. Number A, 11 St. Alfred. Carlos? or-
Chairman, this was at your last commission meeting. In there, I believe they were initially presented back in May 1st. The issues and concerns that were discussed was the stormwater, the concept stormwater management plan included the entire roof area as required by code, but they were also tying in some artificial turf in the backyard into the system. And staff, we had a concern about, whether that was within the intent of the code and where they had the capacity to hold that. In addition to that, there was a retaining wall, which I'll talk about too, that and some improvements that extended into the neighboring property immediately to the west. So on the stormwater, we did have our consultant take a look at that, and they looked at the calculations and all that, and provided us a report. We shared that with the owner, and they adjusted that, and the stormwater consultant says that it's fine in terms of having both the artificial turf in that rear yard area along with the roof and how it's calculated and set.
Correct.
So we were good there. We appreciate the homeowner turning around the revisions right away, addressing the consultant's calculations and such. The other thing was about the retaining wall. And the in conclusion was that we had requested, and I talked with the petitioner, that because the retaining wall is going to come in as a separate permit, along with other offsite improvements, that when they come in, that both the owner, the petitioner, and the adjacent property owner sign off on the building permit. And that way we can just file it on each side and such. And the concern on their end is, of course, on liabilities and such like that, but that will be resolved through their easement agreement and such, and we'll just kind of stay out of it.
Good.
And just issue permits on each one.
Good.
Right. Outside of that, the commission didn't have any additional comments about the architecture, elevations, community design, and that's aspects along with the grading. We were still waiting for a final site plan, or excuse me, a final landscape plan for the tree provisions, but we're asking, as we're working on this, that we would handle that administratively. And sorry, Jack, I just kind of went on and didn't. So.
Any questions or comments amongst the commission?
Carlos, my recollection from last time is that there was some discussion about including a liability waiver related to the city in potentially the easement or maybe something else. Is that still on the table?
It wouldn't be necessary because we would just issue them independently, and their easement agreement we'll leave that as them to handle amongst themselves.
Okay.
In there. So we would look at it as independent, and we've done this traditionally. We do that routinely, like with fences in there, where a fence is, a couple of feet off from a neighbor's property, but they want to connect to it, and we just ask them both to sign off on that.
I see. Okay. So by virtue of them both signing, they're essentially consenting to that encroachment. Okay. Thank you.
Good. If there's no further questions, does the petitioner have anything he would like to add? Okay, seeing none, are there any public comments related to this item? Seeing none in the audience, Carlos, should we check online?
Nothing online, sir.
Okay, good. So if there's not any further discussion, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
That'd be great. Thanks, Sam.
Motion to approve a petition for a site plan, community design, and concept stormwater management review for a new single-family home at 11 St. Alfred Road, as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated June 26th, 2025, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Sam Wallach. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Spiegelglass.
Approve.
Commissioner Powell.
Approve.
Bear with me. They've asked that we have the video on. Commissioner Wallach.
Approved.
Chairman Jurgel.
Approved.
And the motion passes unanimously 4-0.
All right.
The next step in the process would be applying for the building permits.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, a new business, 1022 Dolores Avenue. Jack?
All right, good evening, Commission. So before you tonight is 1022 Dolores Avenue. This is a new home that is subject to site plan, community design, and concept stormwater management review. And is zoned single-family residential with a building footprint of 2,141 square feet. The lot area is only 7,500 square feet, and the lot width is 50 feet with a depth of 150 feet. The setback's 30, the side yard setback of 5 feet, and a rear yard setback of 30 feet. So there are staff concerns with this project. Primarily are the side yard setback obstructions within the plan. Carlos, if you could go to the next slide. Right here on the site plan zoomed in, there are three different side yard setback obstructions. With the side yard being 5 feet, we have this by code that the side yard setbacks must be clear and and unobstructed. So you can see on the left side that they have these three window wells, the proposed window wells, and then on the left side as well, where that bottom red square is on the architectural plans there, that is a side exit for a garage. So that's how you exit out of the home, but they have concrete flat work like the landing space that's there as you exit. So that's also, again, another obstruction, as well as the mounted AC unit. And that was something that came up with within our code, that it cannot be approved this way just due to those obstructions being in the side yard setback. Yes.
Can I just ask a question regarding, since the window wells and the flat work is flat to the ground, why is that considered an obstruction? I'm talking about the AC unit, just the window wells and then the concrete pad for the entrance.
Sure.
I'm,
So you're correct.
Yeah.
In there, there's a distinction between the window well, if you look at them, and the AC unit, because it is attached to the side and it's not on the ground. The other two are on the ground. But the zoning definition for the setback area is specific, that it should be unobstructed from grade up to the sky. In there, these represent improvements that would be within those setbacks. Traditionally, we kind of take a look at those and see what degree of impact that they have, especially when I have a 12-foot setback. I don't have that luxury here. This is a very tight lot. It's got 5-foot setbacks on each side in there. And you also see that we have to swell those properties to release drainage towards the rear. We don't have that flexibility to give some guidance in there. And then the code ultimately tries to keep all improvements at least 5 feet from a property line, for the exception of fences and retaining walls in there. Therefore, both of these, especially the larger window well, the stoop that would be required for the garage door, and then the overhanging air conditioner, which, while it does not impact the grading in there, it is still there. And it's something we brought up early on, hoping that there would be a design change. I still think that there's opportunities for design integration of those items, and we'd be glad administratively to work with the petitioner on those. Yes, ma'am.
Further concerns can include just stormwater management. We're just awaiting comments back from the consultant, but the detention is provided in the southwest corner of the rear lot. And then, as well as the tree replacement, we had asked for arborist report, and the landscape plan, we have not been provided that as of yet, but the petitioner did note that on the site plan, there are only 2 trees that are illustrated on the site, and that the petitioner proposes to replace them 1-to-1. However, we don't know the species of the tree, the size, or the health that's needed for the removal of those. And that we did ask within the conditions of approval includes that the petitioner provide an analysis of the 2 trees within the health type and the replacement and the species that they're selecting for their landscape plan prior to applying for the building permit. As well as we were just saying, there was a guideline concern regarding the masonry or the front elevation, just asking the commission to review it to seek clarification from the commission whether if the front elevation contains the 50% masonry guideline.
Carlos, you please show the front.
The elevation?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
So you can see that the masonry is, around the garage on the left side, and then, halfway up the first story of the second, or on the right side of the front elevation.
Doesn't look quite 50%, but I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Does that return? Does it return past the garage?
Are you talking about when it wraps around the side of the home? I am pretty
Yeah,
sure, yes.
it's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, Carlos and I can answer any more questions regarding the property as well as the petitioners here.
One thing for clarification for the petitioner's architect is just on that return. I believe the return is there on the garage. As we see right here, I just want to get that confirmed. Because there's that overhead here.
Not looking
Oh, is that looking at the,
on like the foyer.
Yeah,
Right on the front. I'm not sure.
it goes the full height here. So when I look at that, the full height is right here. And then there's the roof bump out.
Yeah, that's in there.
Okay. So
okay. Jack, if you're done, is there any questions that the commission members have regarding this petition? For Jack?
This is great, correct? That's going down here that we're looking at? That's
Mhm.
not a sidewalk or anything going around the house.
No, not to my knowledge. No.
Yeah, because there's only 5 feet.
Yeah.
and there was no pavement. Stormwater consultant didn't have any issues or anything?
not not with the connections of the downspouts in there, and you can see how it gets choked right here
Mhm.
in there, but the issue was that this well doesn't work
Yeah,
with those wells.
right.
The AC unit, and that when I kind of, the code is a code, and again, I'm working in a very tight spot here, but it wouldn't have the same impact as
Exactly.
it does on the north side.
Any way to rotate those wells to the backside?
Yeah, because I think there's a bedroom in that basement area. That was one of the questions I had initially was, do we need those window wells? And the answer is if you're having a bedroom, then yes, correct?
Correct, and there's the bedroom here, but you can see there's ample opportunity. Again,
Yeah.
I'm not going to design it, but there's room, but I agree.
Right. Same goes with the AC unit can be put on the back.
Yes, especially we catch it early on in the process, because right now the concentration of the units, the infrastructure is right here. So I forgot what the exact term is, in here connects there, but they'd have to take a look at that in there. It's a tough one, because again, that one, it's just very tight though.
With the basement, you do have wide open space that you should be able to move some things around
So-
to get a better floor plan, for that. So. Any other questions or comments?
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
just a procedural one. It says on the staff report that we don't really have any flexibility to approve this project with these encroachment or these obstructions.
Typically, correct. The commission doesn't have any authority to grant that. What I'm asking is the commission approve it with a condition that those obstructions be removed,
Okay.
and then that we can coordinate the redesign, the review the redesign. Most of those will be window wells, so they'll be in the base of that in there. And my assumption is it's going to probably be at this northeast corner in there to minimize impact to the patio area in there. And that's where the bedroom is right now. And the flexibility of having the two others, I don't believe they're required by code, but you do have another window at the south
That corner.
east corner. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions or comments for staff?
I would ask the commission again, trying to guide the, discussions on this and, comments that we receive, but, taking a look at the streetscape, this is a transitioning neighborhood in there. There are a lot smaller homes, but we've seen, it was about 5 years, somebody built a house that sold for $1 million in this block. And then we saw three properties subdivided for 3 homes were built similar in size. So it is transitioning, but we should be cognizant that not all the houses have changed. And I think the developer and his team have done a good job in terms of just providing different horizontal elements to break that down. Typically, if these weren't there, we would have asked that they cut the roofs in there, so it acknowledges that especially the house to the south is a little bit lower, but I think they do a good job here recognizing that. The second thing is about stormwater. Stormwater is always important. Make sure that they're addressing it. I think they do an adequate job if they can get those wells within those 5 feet. We still need a landscape plan. That's something, again, Jack and I are working with, trying to get everybody to get submitted, and there's they're working with us on that.
Good.
And then the other thing, I think the commission needs to start asking questions about sustainability, environmental things, that are being considered in this plan, especially as we head towards the new codes. And those could be things, what aspects are incorporated into in these designs. Is the conduit being provided in the garages for some future plugins or things like that? Or there anything unique that they're looking into? We don't have anything codified, but I think we need to start pushing that discussion, especially based on a comprehensive plan.
So I just had a question that popped in my head about sustainability. Are they incorporating any? It was a joke, guys.
So,
Are there any,
and I'd lead the petitioner, and I know the community you're coming from, they're dealing with the same things, but is there anything that you'd want to add as a developer now? And Mike, if you don't mind coming, Mark, if you don't mind coming up, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
remember to turn it on and state your name and address.
Okay,
There we
very
go.
good. Yeah, I'm Mark Manlin with the Manlin Company. I guess I'd like to, if you think it's appropriate, to comment on a few of the issues.
Be great.
There was discussion about some encroachments into the side yards. On the actual floor plan itself, we've got one window well on the left-hand side, I guess, where the bedroom is. There is another window that showed, but I don't believe that the actual architectural plan reflects that. But to address that, we certainly could take the window well and put it on the back side. So it would be the northeast corner of the house. The only concern I'd have with that is it's adjacent to the covered patio area, and it awfully close, and it's going to need to be covered in some fashion for protection. But otherwise, we can certainly do that. ACs, we can put those along the rear. I think probably if you're looking at the floor plan, it would be behind the rec room, probably on the southeast corner. And then with the stoop, does that constitute an encroachment? Because I know, can't driveways go in side yard setbacks?
Excuse me, Chairman. Yeah, we used to allow them, and then we adopted an ordinance to keep them 5 feet from the properties.
see,
And
I
the
see.
issue has been because of grading in there, and
We
that's
do a permeable paver?
I would assume that's
Right.
probably what's going to happen regardless by the future purchaser or resident. The thing is, because of the door, the code is going to require that they have I guess it's a 9 square foot pad, and that becomes the problem.
Three by
Yeah.
3, right.
And again, it wasn't in the original plans when we looked at them, and then it popped up in the second set of revisions, and that's where it was to notify you that we just it poses. I mean, I as a purchaser would, it comes in very handy.
Sure.
Sure. But it is a very tight lot.
Okay. Well, obviously, anything that is put into the side yard, the grading considerations will be factored in, and if it creates any problems with the grading, that's obviously a big problem. But as I said, the window well will go along the back, the ACs can go along the back, and if we need to omit the stoop, we can certainly do that and provide for some alternative that would be acceptable.
Good, good, good. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments for the petitioner?
And you're working on the landscape plan? Or
Yes,
something like
we
that?
are. With landscape,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I should have some civil drawings tomorrow and that'll identify the trees that are being removed. And then we'll have a landscape plan too. A question about the landscape plan, I've asked about this before. Are there specifics in your ordinances that call out what we need to provide for? Any guidance that we can
I think Jack
take
has
that?
some things that you can give out.
Well, yeah, we have some, general requirements right now, and I can send you an email with those
Okay.
requirements. Or, it's pretty similar to, our burst reports that we have online, and I can give you, show you what some other people have turned into.
Okay,
And then you can kind of see, it's just the site plan, making sure that you pick the trees from the native species list on Missouri Dental Gardens website. But then wherever you put the replacement locations, that's kind of up to you.
that's fine. Yeah, just, you would let me know.
Yeah, I'll get all that
Okay,
information.
great. Good, good.
Good, good. Thanks.
Sure, thank you.
Any public comments? Seeing none in the audience, Carlos, you please check online.
Chairman, right now, no, nobody online.
Good, good. Seeing no questions, no comments, any further discussion? If not, then I'd say, do I hear a motion?
Well, I just wanted to say, I'll just
Yeah.
ask the question, does anybody want to see the landscape plan or the obstructions before we approve it, or do we all feel confident that
I feel
staff can
confident.
handle it?
I feel confident that staff can handle it, especially since there's only 2 trees that they
Yeah.
have there. And then also the biggest issue is the stoop or, the
Yeah.
outside, which is very flat. And I think there's a very workable issue.
Look, I'm fine with that too. I just wanted to
Clarify.
clarify. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. But that being said, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve a petition for a site plan community design and concept stormwater management review for a new single-family home at 1022 Dolores Avenue as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated June 26, 2025, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion again has been made by Sam Wallach. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass for the second time. Carlos, please call the vote. I wish I could. Carlos, am I allowed to second or make a
I
motion?
think they tend to keep the chair from making those
Yeah.
motions because you're coordinating
Right.
and so
I'm sorry.
it'd be like the conductor going down and playing playing an instrument. All right. Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Powell,
Approve.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Sherman Dragell.
Approved.
The motion passes 4-0. The next step, of course, will be submitting for the applications for the building permit plans. I think the demo is still pending. In there, we will review it under the 2015 codes, of course. And that's it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to item B7 Lisa Drive whenever Carlos is ready. Oh, there he is. Carlos or Jack? Yeah.
Mr. Carswell?
All right, before you tonight is 7 Lisa Drive. This is a new single-family home. It is subject to the community design and concept stormwater management review because it meets the lot requirements for site plan review. So site plan is not required by code, given the property attributes. But the commission, does, however, reserve the right to request the site plan review. The primary concerns that came out from 7 Lisa Drive was stormwater management. Just again, they have provided detention on the southeast corner, which is the front of the lot. But we're awaiting consultant review of the stormwater management calculations, as well as the other concern, the primary staff concern was just about the tree replacement plan. They have provided, a tree replacement plan that indicates that there's going to be 4 trees being replaced. Just wanted to get commission guidance on one of the tree locations, number 2 on that. I just want to know if you guys think that is if it's in too close of a proximity to the stormwater pit that they're putting in that corner. But we can go through that as I continue on with the presentation. Again, we would like to get commission guidance on whether you guys consider this to be 50% masonry on the front elevation. as well as the other concern that came up was site grading with the proposed driveway slope being at about 13 point something on the left side and 14% on the right side, and which poses a threat to the city's infrastructure. And it's in the city's best interest that the driveway slope percentage is not to exceed that 8% unless it's been authorized by the Director of Public Works. So we're facilitating that conversation with the Director of Public Works to figure out, how to address the concern with the driveway slope. Other than that, you just have this new single-family home in front of you. I can give you some more additional information here. Just a lot area of 20,337 square feet with a lot width of 125 and lot depth of 159.13 feet. The proposed plan is permitted to cover up to it's either permitted to cover up to 5,000 square feet or 20% of the lot area, whichever is greater. With a building footprint of 3,924 square feet, the proposed footprint takes up approximately 96.47% of the allowable area. So as a result, there's 3.53% of the lot would still be deemed usable for future coverage. Within your staff report, you have all of the information regarding the projects that have happened on the adjacent homes, what permits have been pulled, and in relation or in regarding the community design review. The only concerns we had again was that 50% masonry on the front elevation, the stormwater comments, just making sure we get the consultants' comments regarding the calculations, the driveway slope, which falls under site grading, and then as well as just getting guidance from the commission on the proximity of replacement tree 2, just because we have not been provided the list of the species of what they're selecting yet. So we don't know, how the roots sprawl out or which way these trees will grow, if it's going to affect that, the Nioplast well pit that they have there. Yeah.
Can you show a picture that shows
The home or the trees?
trees?
Okay. Carlos, I may have it.
Would it be in the site
It's
plan?
attached to the SR.
Okay. Jack, I'm gonna ask for some assistance.
It is also in the commission packet. It's the second to last page of the staff report. On that page, it has the proposed tree protection plan as well as their landscape plan.
There you go, sir.
Carlos, just a little further down, yeah. So you can see, so that's the existing site plan, they just don't have the stormwater pit indicated on that plan, but it is close proximity to the right of number 2, which is in that lower right corner.
So H and K are existing trees, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4 are proposed.
Yes,
trees,
H-
replacement trees.
Yes, sir.
How close is the drip line edge, the proposed strip line edge to that?
I was trying to figure out the best way of calculating that, but of course we don't have the stormwater pit indicated on, on the tree or the landscape plan. And then we don't have the trees indicated on the replacement trees indicated on the site plan. So I don't know the specific location of where that replacement tree is going to go. I think it's probably, a general location of where they're going to plant that tree, but I just wanted to bring it up as a concern.
I have a question about the front facing garage. I thought that we were pretty particular about designs that included front facing garages if it can be accommodated from the side. Because it surely makes that house look very large. And I didn't know if with the grading because of the slope, whether that might be adjusted in such a way that
Beneficial.
you can deal with the 2 issues at one time where you're not looking at this big house with a gigantic garage.
Yeah, they featured 2 garages. So it's 2 2-car garages, one off of the front and one off of the side. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Mhm.
Seems. So I think the more important question to me is technically site plan review is not required, but you also are saying unless we would like to see something more or that we have concerns, and I would say I have concerns about the issue of the parking of the garage and whether that is necessary to have that front facing for all of it, for the 2-car or the 1-car. You see what I'm saying?
Two-car garage.
Is the,
They're
The-
both two-car garages.
Yeah, on the
they're both
yep,
2,
yep.
okay, maybe because I'm looking at it.
I
So-
don't necessarily have a problem with it. We've done front-facing garages before, especially when we have, it's a decorative front with some architectural features rather than just a flat garage door.
But I mean, we have required other applicants, can't think of the name of the street, where the house was on an angle at the bottom of the kind of a cul-de-sac thing, where, we made them go through quite a bit of change in order to not have that door facing outward toward the street. And so here we are, we have,
I thought it was more the front projection of the side.
oh,
That
well,
was
I
built
got the
for-
impression that it was also the door, but we've said that, I mean, we've,
Yeah.
it's one thing when you have a really skinny lot, and you don't really have any other place to go with it. Here, we're not dealing with a really skinny lot, and we do have grade issues. So I guess my question is, why are we not requiring some discussion about that from a site plan review basis? Does that make any sense?
No, I understand.
Well, we're having discussion about
Yeah,
it right
well,
now.
Yeah, I know we are, but that's not been addressed by, staff.
And that would be different. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about that. I appreciate the comments because it's good. But the way the guidelines are set up, they're set up for staff to make sure that we engage with the petitioners regarding the design of what has been considered as reasonable to an extent acceptable design criteria that the commission has asked, and that can change over time too. So in the component for garages, and you'll see how Mr. Carswell has it here in his presentation. He's got it checked off because it notes that in the city encourages side entry garages. There are guidelines, so it doesn't say it requires. But in instances when the garage faces the street, it should not project outward beyond the primary plane. So in the past, we have approved developments that had even, a side entry and a front entry, so long as that was set back in there. So in our review, at least making the case of why we didn't pick it up, it was because it was set back well behind that front plane here in there. And per the guidelines, we would give that a check. That doesn't necessarily mean that the commission has to agree. That's why we have this full process in place. So through that, we did not bring that up as an issue in there. And again, you are correct. The commission does have that authority or that right. Now within the subdivision itself, given the age of that subdivision, there are a couple of front entry garages in that and some of the other older housing stock. The new one to the left, I think there's 2 new homes in there, I think has it as a side entry. But it was something we didn't push forward or bring up in there. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay either.
Yeah.
So
I understand. I'm just, I'm looking at the house next door, and they clearly have a side entry, and the house massing looks smaller because they don't have that second 2-car garage, even though it's set back. And I appreciate that because I didn't first see that. But you see what I'm saying is, like, if you just did what the neighbors had done, which is a side entry garage, you wouldn't have quite so large of a house as compared to the next door house, and certainly not compared to the single story to the right. That's my only concern.
But I wouldn't want to have two-car garages, side entry, kind of in the front of the house.
No, I
Definitely not.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree with that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that by allowing the second 2-car garage, even though it is not projecting frontward, it's still from a visual, it makes the house look so much bigger than the house
Yeah.
next door. That's really my biggest concern, is the house just seems really extraordinarily large
The
because of that, but
petitioner also included in the project report a lot of information regarding the neighborhood and the subdivision. So they took pictures of the different homes and they have different characteristics regarding them. So it may be beneficial to just, glance over that project report to see what
Yeah.
they've provided regarding the neighborhood.
And
While
my,
we're looking at that, I wanted to point something out. Jack, I don't know if you looked, but there's a landscape drawing. This one, by Walbert and Sons. And they show the two front trees on either side of the driveway. So it does look like.
Yeah, it seems like that. We just need to get clarification if we're going to go off of this landscape plan or the one that was provided through the tree preservation plan.
Yeah,
Yep.
I like this one because it keeps it away from the.
Keeps it away from the stormwater, and it also
Absolutely.
includes all of the additional plantings, which is great to see.
Yeah,
and all the utilities are going right through there too as well.
As well, yeah. Oh, yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, they are.
mhm. So,
And he does, and this plan does include the botanical names on there as well. So we'll just have to go through there to just make sure, that those match the list, and then we should be good off of that landscape plan if this is the one that they want to go off of.
yeah.
Yep.
That sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So Vitri, what I was gonna say is the last one that was on Right Rose, I really didn't like because it portrayed out.
it was-
I mean, that was my issue with that, and we've had a couple other ones that have come through the commission that have gone out that we've said no to. Where the ones that are set back and have some architectural that's not just a garage door, we've kind of approved more.
Right.
And I appreciate that the projection issue, but even the other houses that are shown here, in the neighborhood that you've included in the packet, none of them have a second car garage with where the garage door is facing front. And so I'm just saying that maybe it's just mixed, mincing words here, but it's more that it makes the house feel so much bigger than the remaining houses, and that's just my only issue. I agree.
Okay, Jack, could you go to that front page that had the issues? Because I think we've looked at two of them or
Yeah,
or a few of them.
We've talked about, I guess, stormwater management, we're just awaiting the comments from the consultant.
Yes.
Tree preservation, we just addressed, masonry, that's up to the commission.
I'd like to hear other people's opinions, but I'd be happy to tell you what I feel,
Want me to go first?
I'm okay with it, because I think they also use some other different elements which mixes it up, and that's what I like, about it, so.
I think the masonry is just fine. I'm a little concerned about all the different materials, the siding that's going different directions. And then you have the shake up there and it's kind of every which way on that same. So you have all these going vertical and then you have these horizontal, then you have shakes right here. You have these horizontal, you have shakes right here, horizontal, shakes, horizontal.
Yeah, I see
vertical.
what you're saying.
It's kind of like
Busy.
very busy. And I think the masonry is fine. It wraps around. I think that's all good. I'm just worried about that part of it.
No wonder I'm not an architect.
And I'm not either, but that just seems very every which way to me.
Sam, Petrie, any thoughts?
I guess I'm not as bothered by that because I think that style right now is very popular where you have, the shake at the gables and I'm not as concerned about that personally, but I understand your point for sure.
And then my other question is, these canopies, there's one that's over the garage and then there's another one over the roof. What are those materials too? I would like to know what those are.
We'll find that right now, but also the
Okay, so
commissioner
we
can
can ask the
possibly answer it.
petitioner.
as
Yeah,
well. Yep.
absolutely. But that was my other question on that part of it.
Well, I would just say then the other comment that we just had was about the, the driveway slope. That's something that staff can also handle just with the petitioner as well as the Director of Public Works. But if you do look in the building plans, it seems to be that the garage, they have actually lowered the slope than what was originally there.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask you.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Any other further, or any other questions or comments for staff at this point? Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it. Is the petitioner here? Good, good, good.
Hi, I'm Alex Barlsmeyer from Calvi Homes. I'm going to be the builder of the house. To just relay, actually, I'll get a little breakdown. Goes towards the garage, a little bit on the driveway slope, a little bit. So if you look at actually the site plan of this lot, this lot's a little bit difficult. It falls front to back, sorry, back to front over the whole lot, and it has a total fall of about 27 feet across the entire lot. So it is a little bit of a complicated lot to build onto. That has driven a few of the things. When we originally were planning and put this house on this lot, it was originally a 3-car side entry house until we started putting it on the lot and realized the drastic slope issue we had. The problem with that 3-car is that just makes that house 10 feet deeper. And with the slope issue we've already got, if you actually look at the site plan, you'll already notice we have a C-shaped retaining wall in the back there that's already at almost 7 feet tall at the highest point, just to provide some sort of usable backyard. The existing house had a pool that was actually built into the hillside 6 feet above the existing house. So yes.
Not well.
Yeah. So we originally were planning on it just being a solely side entry garage, but ran into that issue with the lot. With the lot being as wide as is, we took advantage of that by adding in the now what we call the courtyard garage by having the side entry as well as a front entry, but keeping it pushed towards the back of the house. That also kind of plays into the slope issue, kind of plays into the driveway slope. We're pretty much, I don't know if it was updated in here, we recently were going back and forth with the staff about that. And we recently had the surveyor verify the existing slope, and we're pretty much at the existing slope is what we're proposing for that driveway.
And what percentage is that?
I mean, the existing is basically 14.
Okay.
So we're only, this house, finished floor to finished floor from existing to ours, there's a 5-inch difference. We are not raising this house at all. We're at 5 inches. I mean, like, if I want to adjust it, but I think really the reason we rose that 5 inches is to make sure we have proper slope in the back of the house. So, yeah, so we ran into quite a number of issues there dealing with the slope of this lot, which has driven to some of these final outcomes that were presented tonight. As for the tree and landscape plan, yes, we do plan on following the proposed landscape plan. The tree study was just not updated to match it. We can update that if needed, but the plan is to follow the landscape plan. So, I don't believe there was any other items.
The front elevation.
Oh yes, the front elevation. Yeah, I mean, if we could adjust some of the finishes if the final outcome is to believe that it's too busy.
Have you done this type of house before with the different
Yes.
changes? Do you have
Yes.
an address for that?
Not off the top of my head. I could find some and provide them if needed. I don't have it off the top of my head. The one benefit we are doing here, we are proposing the same color for all those siding finishes. So at least from a color perspective, they are uniform, but there will be a texture difference.
Since you've seen it, how do you?
Oh, I know. I believe it's a good looking house. I mean, I can see, I can understand where some of the commission members are coming from with the busyness. And like I said, we can make adjustments if needed. But our opinion, the house actually looks good as proposed. So
Would you feel comfortable with staff reviewing? some
I
of
would
those
say,
photos?
yeah, if staff who could review those photos, I'd be good with it.
Chairman, just a real quick question or clarification on that, just to make sure. So the finish on the little projections here, and I can see the detail is right here.
Mhm.
It is it is a siding finish. It's not an asphalt.
No, it's a standing seam metal roof.
Okay,
Yeah, it will be standing seam metal roof.
okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
That'll look good.
Okay, any further questions or comments? For the
Uh,
petitioner?
No.
No?
Just, I do know that plans were shared with the subdivision trustees. I know that they received them. That you have any feedback? Given that there was some concerns about the massing and the size, it's not the first new house that they've dealt with, but,
We have not heard any comment from,
Okay.
um,
and I do know that they received copies and all that. I personally talked with
The trustee?
the
yeah,
trustee.
so we have not
Okay.
heard any comment from trustees.
Usually we don't like to, approve anything without the trustees' input, but,
If we do, don't they still have the right to reject it under their own bylaws and then the parties have to figure it out between
they
themselves?
do. The difficulty that the neighborhood would have is the only recourse they have is to,
Sue.
as a lawsuit, right? Versus, us, we sometimes can help mediate,
Yeah.
issues like that prior to the issue of, approval for a petition.
So we do know that we sent out mailing notifications to all the properties on Lisa, right? It wasn't just the 300 feet. Usually in a small cul-de-sac, we'll just go ahead. So they did receive notifications. And then I did talk to one of the trustees and then showed them how to access the plans and all that. So I know, and that was back in
We originally submitted
April, early
in-
May.
Yeah,
Yeah, so outside of that, I hadn't had any communication.
April or early May, and
Yeah.
we haven't had anything? Yeah, I think that's.
I think that's more than enough time.
I agree. I agree. Okay, I just want to make sure if they just didn't have it for 2 weeks or, something like that. So, okay, great. Thanks for your,
thank you.
yeah, appreciate it. Anybody in the public have any, any comments related to this agenda item? Carlos, online?
No, sir, no one on.
Okay, that being said, any further discussion? Okay,
I mean, I thought that the discussion about the slope was very helpful.
Okay,
It made a lot more, made more sense to me,
absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
So, and it's just lack of time to look at the detail to get that, but that was very helpful. Thank you.
And I think it was helpful too, the whole idea about the garage
Yeah.
issues and understanding that too. So, very good. All right, if there's no further discussion, do I hear a petition? A motion. Thank you. I just checking to see if you guys were
See if
paying
we're still
attention.
awake.
Yeah.
We'll put it on screen. We'll put it on screen.
I'll make a
Go ahead, say.
while everybody else is. Motion to authorize the approval of the petition for site plan, community design, and concept stormwater management review for a new single-family home at 7 Lisa Drive. Am I reading the right one? Yes, okay. As presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated June 26, 2025, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Sam Wallach. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Beecham Powell. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Powell,
Approve.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Jurgel.
Approved.
All right. Motion passes unanimously 4-0. So the next step in the petition process, I don't believe the house has been demoed yet. In there, so they'll be going through the permitting process for the demolition, applying for the building permits again, given that the petition was submitted to the commission already, we will continue it on the 2015 ICC codes on there. Thank you, Mr. Bartelsmore.
Okay, good. We'll move on to item C, 9486 Indian Meadows Drive. Jack?
Chairman, and actually, Jack, if you don't mind, if we can, they're not here, and I'll explain that later, but if we
Okay.
can address the property on Olive, we do have a representative here.
Oh, fantastic.
If that's okay? If
Absolutely.
the chairman would agree.
So we'll jump to item D, which is 9315 Olive Boulevard. Jim?
So before you tonight, Commission, is 9315 Olive Boulevard, which is now the old Enterprise Building, which is now the new Emerson Building. So they've come to us with a special permit or special use permit for the inclusion of how they what they phrase it. I want to use the term, so I have it down here. If we just due to the seasonal peak demand to have these container storages on the parking lot. So these storage containers would be used stored in the rear of the building on the parking lot. You can see there that there is the two purple boxes are the existing fenced in enclosures for the generator and the transformer. And the proposed location of these freight containers would be behind those. The reason that it has to have a special permit use is just the outdoor storage and material equipment associated with, and on the same lot is permitted, or on the same lot as a permitted use in the LID district, items in outdoor storage shall be stacked at all times, safe, neat, and in an orderly condition, and the maximum height, is subject to the special permit use, as well as the visual screening. So we wanted to bring this before the commission for a special permit use and get the commission's guidance on whether, do these containers also count as a form of screening of what is inside of those containers, what they're storing, or do we go down the line of having those have to be, screened as well? But then we also have the conversation in here with with the future of, say, do we want to approve something where they have the permission to add additional containers if the seasonal peak demand is there? So we will go down there. Carlos, do you have anything else regarding this property and the freight containers?
No, the property grounds are zoned light industrial.
Mhm.
The city has authorized outdoor storage, and I believe I note 4 different properties in your report: Auto Beauty, Murphy, Arch Design, and the Honeywell across the street from this facility. All have received prior approvals because this is industrial. This is our largest, possibly the largest parcel in the city of Olivet. It's close to 13 acres. It's 12.65. The building will sit in front of these, and the visibility would be extremely minimal unless you were intentionally trying to go to the back of the building of that. In addition to that, from a staff perspective and trying to work with our businesses and their request is just for what you see here, but we're kind of looking at this, when we hope that this becomes a successful business and maintains roots here in Olivet, to give them more flexibility and not to have to come back anytime that if they need to put more or so. So you'll see in your motion the consideration of 2 different options. That's being requested by the petitioner to just authorize those 4 containers. Option 2 to do up to 8, or option 3 is just to make sure that they're back there and out of view's way. And there. We'd like to give the commission to kind of consider them. It's good for our businesses. They've been a very active participant in the community already. So we want to work with them as best as possible. Here's the site, as you can see, just in terms of context: Olive Boulevard, I-170 here. This is the Fisher Rosemont Emerson building. And you can see integrated here. It has some outdoor storage and containers. Murphy has a whole bunch of containers and piping out here. Auto Beauty has some vehicles, surpluses here. And then Arch Design also has some outdoor storages here, mostly supplies that they use for their framing and improvements.
Are these actual containers that you're showing us right now? I can't tell.
The other neighbors are actual just materials sitting out.
Okay.
In an enclosed area. Their proposal is that their enclosure is the actual container. So they will have equipment and stuff within the containers, and that could be for security or safety purposes, or things that are pre-assembled and easy to pick up. However, since they're not on wheels, I don't, it was kind of a gray area. Like these are being stored outside, so therefore they're outdoor storage. If they were on wheels and a semi truck comes in and just backs in and picks it up, then that I look at that as that's just part of the industrial process and things that go in that nature. These are not set on wheels in any way, so you could consider that it's a box, some type of box just sitting out there outdoor.
And are they just putting these on the asphalt just where they go?
Correct.
There's
And
no-
I'll let them address if there's anything additional. I do not believe that there would be in terms of the ground of the boxes.
And does the city require anything for storage containers or anything like that for like hold downs or anything like that?
That, no, not that I'm aware of. But we would check if a building, I'll have to check with the building staff if there is. They're familiar with it, but we didn't ask them to take a look into that aspect of it. So,
Okay.
good question. But I believe the intent is that these are somewhat portable. We'll find out in just a second.
Yeah.
So,
Just to be clear, we don't, I know it says in here raw materials, but we don't know what's actually going to be inside the storage containers.
No, but a petitioner can answer
Okay.
that. Yes, sir.
And then I guess my other general question is, what is a seasonal peak? How long does that last? Is that 3 months? Is that 2 weeks? What is that?
Another great question for the petitioner.
Cleaning the.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. If there's no further questions with staff, we'll ask the petitioner to come up. Remember to state your name and address for the record.
So good evening. Hello, all. My name is Mike Knittel. I'm the director of the system integration for Emerson at this facility at 9315 Olive. So I guess to address a couple of the initial questions, the seasonal demand, usually we see, since we do have a lot of power plant work that we build control systems for industrial sites. So our seasonal demand is usually there's a fall outage and a spring outage season for power plants. So usually in the late winter, early or mid to late summer, we have those peak volumes so we can get systems out to our customers for their turnarounds in the spring and fall. It's our intent, though, that we would keep those containers there, and just that during off-peak times they would just be empty, but that we would keep them back there as just kind of there to have storage as we would flex to. As to the question of what type of raw materials, a lot of stainless steel electrical enclosures. We have what we call A-frames, or just basically like picture a wooden pallet, but vertically, that we will actually build system components to ship to the customers. So to be able to kind of get those in and run through the production facility without having to have offsite storage and stuff like that. So that's generally the type of stuff. It's nothing of high value, obviously no electronics, but stuff that can handle, not being in the weather, but being not climate controlled.
Okay.
Makes
So
sense.
nothing that would qualify as like hazardous materials or anything like that? Okay.
And what?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, why did you choose the metal containers instead of just putting a big fence?
So
or
in
a
our
canopy
current,
or something like that on there?
Sure. In our current facility and on the Ferguson campus that we're leaving, we currently utilize those type of containers in our lot. We already have them. Two of them that we currently have that we propose to bring, we have painted in a neutral color to match the building, so it blends. The two additional we would add would be painted the same as well. We don't want these to look like containers. We want them to look actually like something that's there, that's supposed to be there. Also, if you look on that back lot, we actually have a nice patio area and a place for our employees to have. So we want to make sure we keep that nice area as well for enjoyment. So we're not looking to just make it like just a piled up storage. So.
And I asked that before, but you'll probably know the answer. At your other facility, did you guys have a concrete pad or anything, or this just go on your asphalt?
So it was on the apron. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was actually on the concrete apron of the asphalt.
Okay.
And are these boxes going to be moved?
The-
So it's not like what we have at Aldi where we have trucks coming in and out. These are just going to be pretty much permanent.
Correct.
And this would be a special use permit, so this isn't going throughout. This is just this property that we're approving.
correct.
I know some of your sites, you manufacture kind of units that get taken out to a site and then drop down in a manufacturing area. Do you guys do any of that? And could these containers be used like that?
So we used to build those containers at our Ferguson facility. We've ended that production and our last one shipped in December. So we're officially out of that business. We want to move to a much smaller facility that doesn't have room to build those anymore. So that's not a potential for this site for us.
Okay. Any other further questions? And you're proposing 2 right now, but up to potentially 4?
Yeah.
220s, 240s is
Okay.
what we're asking for in the original petition. But if the commission sees to add extra flexibility, we welcome that.
I'm fine with, well, personally, I'm fine with the four. But if we start adding more and it becomes kind of like a farm of containers, then I think it might be a need for some, screening or, something around it, but I'm flexible.
I would be at option 2.
Yes.
Option 2 is up to 8.
Up to 8, correct. And then you gotta come back so you don't have that farm effect or, would be my part.
Yeah.
I assume their parking is more than ample.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're good. All right. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate it. Any public comments related to this item? Seeing none in the audience, Carlos, you please check online.
Checking online, this is your chance. So, all right, no, sir.
See you none? Okay, good, good. Any further discussion? If not, do I hear a motion?
Oh, my turn. On screen. Okay, I'll make a motion. Motion to forward a recommendation to City Council to consider approval of an ordinance to authorize a special use permit for option 2 for up to 8 containers of outdoor seasonal storage.
I'll second.
Hold on, I thought we were approving option 1,
Oh, I thought you said you,
but if we go with option 2, we would want the additional screening.
no.
Not my
No.
understanding.
That's not.
Is that what?
No, I was saying option 2 without the additional screen, but if it goes more than 8, then then it needs to come back here for
Okay,
that. This is
good.
kind of where
Good with that.
where I was
Okay.
at.
So the original motion is
You're-
option 2.
Feel free
Option
to
2,
vote
no.
More than welcome to do that.
Right, right.
Do the motion, you're ready to start here. What? Always keep.
I'll
correcting
second
here.
I'll second the motion.
Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Paul,
Approved.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
and Chairman Drugill.
Approved.
All right, the motion passes unanimously. This is just a recommendation. So the next step in this process, because it is a special permit use, is that it has to be forwarded to the city council. We would probably have it at the council meeting, I believe it's
7-1. I'm not saying it's federal.
no, it would- yeah,
that'd be
Commissioner
that
Worth,
section,
8,
Yeah, 7-8.
July 8th or July 22nd, but we'll follow up with you in there. It also requires that we have to have a public hearing, which means I need to meet a posting deadline through the paper and had it listed in there. So it could be July, August, or we could get it done by July, but I'll get you those dates.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll swing back to item C, 9486 Indian Meadows Drive.
Right. I'll go ahead and, yeah, real quick. Chairman, this item was in our last agenda in July, but unfortunately, due to some coordination issues, we couldn't have that meeting. This was a property that we had posted a stop work order in May. They had started doing some flat work on the property grounds at 9486 Indian Meadows Drive. Once it was brought to our attention, we were there. They cooperated with staff and they ceased work. When we looked at the calculations, it was one of these projects that exceeded what we're authorized administratively to approve, so they quickly got their information together to be at the early June meeting. Unfortunately, of course, we had to cancel that in there. So that being said, in here, they are proposing flat work on this site. In there, it's a nice improvement. Flat work is 2-dimensional, so there's no 3-dimension or anything that's seen in there. The biggest concern usually with flat work, and you can see they have quite a bit here. This is what they're proposing. Is stormwater, and after talking with them and all that, they did put a stormwater plan together that's appropriate for the size of flat work that they're doing. So they have everything covered. Staff-wise, I'm comfortable with what's been proposed. Jack hasn't yelled at me on what's been submitted. We're also doing flat work on the driveway, but again, that's handled administratively because the driveway doesn't count to the rear yard flat work, but they were also providing plantings to accommodate stormwater that's generated on those driveways. So that being said, I told the petitioner I would bring that to their attention because it was a kind of an interruption in their schedule. And I'm asking if the commission would consider a motion to approve the flat work as submitted in there. Be glad to answer any specific questions and go over the plan details if necessary.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
Just out of curiosity more than anything else, where are they when you did the stop work order?
Where were they? The forms were pretty much set for the driveway expansion and kind of in the back.
Okay.
So they would be set for pouring pretty soon.
Okay.
Petitioner's not here, right?
No.
Okay, okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask if there's any public comments. I don't know if there's any public comments related to this. Seeing none. And I don't think we have anybody online.
No, sir.
Any further discussion on this? I'm fine with this. I think it looks good, and I think they made probably some amends, you know, and looks like they did a nice job with it, so. Okay, good. So that being said, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve a petition for a site plan, community design and concept stormwater management review for a 1,255 square foot of rear yard flat work at 9486 Indian Meadows Drive as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated June 26, 2025, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Petrie Powell. And do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. I will note, Tim's hasn't done a motion yet.
I don't do motions. I can tell you right now, I'll stand silent up here if you need me to.
Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Powell,
Approve.
Commissioner Wallach, Chairman Jorgel.
Approved.
Motion passes unanimously 4-0.
Good go. So now we'll move on to discussion items. Number 5, item A, tree protection, preservation and replacement.
Chairman, there's a couple of items that I can jump ahead because there's in the audience, actually, there's two in there unrelated. One, we had an application submitted for the installation of some rooftop solar panel units in the property on Heather Hill Lane, part of the Heather Hill Addition subdivision, I believe it is. And given the way the house was designed with the multiple roof planes, it's one of the larger multi-plane roof. In there, the panels were all over, you know, facing the street side actually, because this property was on the west. So the best solar view was to have them on the east, and that's where the side of the street is. So we noted that the commission is authorized that administratively as a policy, staff can approve solar panel installations if it meets, I believe it's 4 criteria. Oh, excellent. So here's the subject property. Oops. And you can see the location of the solar installations, and that's being recommended by the installer. When it's all, one of the criteria that the commission is authorized that administratively we can approve those if they're all grouped together. In this case, they're not. 2, that they're all parallel with the roof plane. In this case, they are. That they consist of a material that's comparable to traditional roofing colors and things of that, which from the city perspective, we find that they do. We haven't seen anybody that came out with anything very outlandish. And then the 4th is, you know, what side are they facing, if they're on the street or not, but that becomes a very
Subjective.
well, it's an equal protection. That's not the right term, but because they're on the wrong side of the street, their neighbor should not get a benefit without it. So anyway, we advised them all that, but we also said that they needed to talk to their subdivision trustees. And at this point, they're still in that discussion. I think there was some issues from the subdivision, so we're still awaiting revisions. So at this point, you know, we're just making the commission aware on that.
Right.
All right. And then the second item, I did get, go ahead. Oh, excellent. We did get proposed revisions for the accessory structure at 820 North Price Road. And the petitioner wanted just to bring this to the commission's attention and see if they were willing to give any feedback. It was kind of limited in there, but you can see that they're still working on the design. This is not a formally submitted application in there. It will require a resubmittal. I think the petitioner who is here is just looking for some general feedback from the commission, which kind of puts it in a pickle, because you just got to be careful. We're not here to provide it. You can provide your own personal opinions or thoughts in there. And that's all we have. That is just in the terms of the redesign of looking at an alternative to the accessory structure that was denied back in April, I believe, April or May. So that's all I have. The next step would be,
Shorter, right? It's
Well, it's not as tall as it was before. It looks like it went back
Yeah.
10 feet or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, if you want to, I'd be happy to have you come up and kind of explain what you've done and.
Ilya Edelman, 820 North Price Road. Nice to see you all again. We had a very nice meeting with Carlos and Jack. Thank you guys for your time to do that. Where we kind of went over options and talked about some of the things that were brought up during the various meetings. And with the aim of getting a general idea of the kind of structure that might be acceptable before we kind of went through the expense of developing a full plan. And based on that conversation, we came up with this and tried to incorporate as much of Carlos's feedback as possible, primarily the incorporation of the living space into the roof structure as opposed to having a full second story. So you see, we've done that with dormers and more acutely sloped roof. We did reduce the height of the structure. I don't remember exactly how much. I believe it is over a foot shorter, and more importantly, the massing is much smaller because of the more sharply sloping roof, and we don't have like the full, walls on each side. So the hope is that having done that and reduced the massing, we satisfy some of the issues that were brought up in the previous meetings.
and that goes into the steps. Again, this is based on our ordinance, is not something that staff is authorized to approve because it exceeds the maximum height permitted for accessory structures in there. I believe there's still sufficient size because we don't know whether the pool is still there or part of that. So there's other calculations we have to do once we, an expanded processes. But then when an accessory structure exceeds the administrative authorizations, then it goes to the commission for review. That review includes, the community design, the site plan, and the concept stormwater management review. The community design is based on the 12 principles that are outlined in the residential redevelopment design guidelines. And those are pretty specific. I think the petitioner and their team can go through those and make a pretty good assessment on, articulation, materials, roof lines, and all that. But then there is the site plan, and the site plan is a broad category, and that's why we have more than just one member of the commission, because it's based on the community values and how you feel it fits within the context of the neighborhood. There is no specific design guidance in there because it's not about a design issue. It's about whether, based on what we're authorized to approve, is this within the realms of the commission's portion to approve? And that's where the commission can't comment on that. I mean, I appreciate the design changes and such, but that's the discussion and that the commission will have if a formal petition is submitted. And then, of course, I don't want to forget concept stormwater management plan. There's criteria for that. Those need to be designed and submitted. So.
And to clarify too, so we have not changed the footprint, and that was in compliance with both stormwater management and the maximum allowable area for accessory structure. We did shrink the footprint during the last iteration of this process to meet that requirement.
All right.
I'm not sure I can comment on this right now, but I would love to kind of compare, this, like the original compared to the second, compared to this one and take a look at it myself. To be able to really give you kind of some ideas. It looks better, but I would like to compare it, with the previous ones. Is the width shorter?
No, so we didn't change the footprint from the last iteration. We just reduced the height and reduced or increased the roof slope to reduce the massing.
So that's all you did? Okay,
Correct.
okay.
It certainly looks more like your primary home. I mean, in terms of looking more architectural, if that I may say that, but I definitely like it better than the the one that was not approved. I think it seems much more cohesive with the other, and I appreciate the roof line changing. That I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think
Yeah.
the 1.5 story
Yeah.
versus 2-story
Really
makes
makes a
a
difference.
significant difference.
Yeah, and it doesn't have quite as modern of a, and I use that term very, I remember the front windows, it was like, all the way around, it seemed very modern versus, your existing historic house. So I think this complements it much better. But that's just based upon what limited information we have here.
Does it look like you reduced the number of windows on the side?
We reduced the size of the windows. We also eliminated the big window on the one side where the entry was.
Yeah.
So the windows are much more in line with the size of the windows on the current house.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll give you my opinion. There's a very tough one for me because I am pretty strongly in favor of no second stories whatsoever on a house, but I think
On an
that
addition.
or an addition, I'm sorry,
Or
addition.
Accessory.
Accessory
structure.
structure,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But this looks as good as it's gonna look with a story and a half. It's not the overall big massing, and I think if I would compromise, this would be where I would compromise on. So, it's a tough one. I'm not gonna lie. For me personally, it's a tough one.
Like I said, I would like to spend some time to compare. It does look better, but I want to kind of get a better idea. I think it's definitely moving in the right direction.
Well, and Carlos was instrumental in
Yeah.
providing that feedback, so we appreciate that.
The,
Okay.
the orientation is the same, right? From the most recent version you submitted. Like at one point you turned it 90.
Yeah.
It's the second orientation. Yes, so it's still turned at a 90 again to satisfy the issue raised by the neighbors.
This is facing the house.
So the short side is facing the neighbors per their request.
Okay.
Yep. So the other advantage of that is that we now have a direct entry into the garage from the driveway. We don't turn 90.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys. We will develop this fully and then resubmit.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion items?
Chairman, outside of that, you do have the latest draft on the tree inventory protection and replacement in there. I only have 4 members. I'd rather get a broader, the full commission to have a more thorough discussion. However, it is becoming more important as we're trying to enforce these, not having something in place.
Agreed.
For me, I think the ordinance is coming along really good in terms of the criteria for the inventory, the protection, and to some extent, some of the replacement. But in our last discussion, we kind of got thrown on that for the 1-to-1 as we were trying to do this grand calculation thing. So we're still kind of struggling with that. And we'll come back with the commission and their in that. And I think there's merits in both, but I just don't just haven't found a comfort level yet on which one we want.
Would making that worksheet for, petitioners be helpful in clarifying your own
I
minds
think so.
about
I
it.
mean, we'll be working.
Sometimes that, if you can put it on paper and say, okay, if I'm gonna do this and this, and if I can make that clear to myself on a form for them to fill out, then I think it might make it easier, because I think that's where we were all struggling
Yep.
to really follow how that was going.
And I think that's what we're gonna be looking at and all that. So maybe that might help in there, or, give us an idea that we're just mad. In there, but you're right. The other thing is that we did get some comments. Somebody had reached out to the Missouri Department of Nature Reserves in there, and they did provide us some comments. Those have been some of those have been integrated here. I'll send out the email so everybody's aware of those comments. I think they were good in terms that we were going in the right direction. In there, I think the end results are still two different things. One of the things that I'll note, I mean, we are not, the intent here is not to draft a tree ordinance. And these are solely about how we're going to deal with trees during the construction process and their replacement. I think sometime down the road, the council may guide us to go differently in that, but I think that's one of the things I'll stress on here. Also take a look at some of the recommendations we got was to avoid plantings in midsummer, especially like this June and all that. Those are integrated there. There is one section that I highlighted in turquoise, I guess it is, in page 7 of 7 in there that Jack had brought up some comments. It was about the removal of if we require trees to be placed on a lot by a petitioner, developer, contractor, or it could even be a homeowner. Take a look at that, and if that's something that we want to have in place or not. I think it's worth some discussion of whether it should stay or it shouldn't in there. We do want to make sure that the trees are warranted and all that, but it's whether if an owner 5 years later wants to take the tree out, is what repercussions are there? Because again, the house and the approval had already been closed in there, and is that fair? And we kind of talked about it, and I think about it the same way. If somebody who had a underground stormwater system in place, and then 5 years later just decided that I'm going to disconnect all of them, technically, I'd have to be creative if that serves as a violation of code. Yeah. So it's kind of one of these things. Or if the commission required 75% brick, and then the homeowner 10 years down the road says, hey, I want to take the brick off the upper levels, is that okay?
Would they have to get a permit and get approval? How would that work?
Good, but they're not beholden to somebody else's.
Right, but would that wouldn't trigger it to come back here if they applied for a permit?
It's possible, not necessarily if somebody was taking brick off or siding, changing siding. Yeah, I mean, they're required to get a permit, but it doesn't trigger.
It doesn't come back here. It wouldn't
Correct.
trigger your guys' office to send it back to here and say
Correct.
they modified that.
I would think this is very similar to, then you're getting into that territory of a tree ordinance, because it's really not any different to me 10 years from now. If you're asking somebody to keep a tree, please keep the tree, but we don't have a tree ordinance, but yet if there was a tree that had been planted 9 years earlier,
Also from a practical, I know we don't want to get too deep in this because we want other people, but like, I have a tree I want to cut down on my lot, theoretically. I cut it down.
Theoretically.
No.
You're on the record for the.
No, I'm not.
You're asking for the neighbor.
I cut it down. You guys find out somehow.
What-
You say, and I say, well, it got, hit by lightning, or it was dead. Anyway, I didn't take a picture of it ahead of time, It's not like there's an updated Google like how could you possibly
It
enforce?
does, it poses some
Yeah.
enforcement issues.
I think
that
the
we
warranty is
prefer
the
not
only
be.
way to go.
Yeah.
Is just
Trying to figure
however
out.
many year warranty. And
You get a 1-year warranty on a standard landscaper or whatever, and
That's it.
after that, it's good luck.
So outside of that, I'm getting more happier with the other components of it in there, but I think, the addressing like what the replacement policy is or the direction we want to go, whether it's 1-to-1 or it's based on a pointage system in there, but we have ample time to put the information together and bring that to our second meeting in July.
Good.
Mhm. And that's really all I had for right now, Chairman. The other items can be deferred.
Good. Okay. All right, we'll move on to other business, meeting minutes. Jack? All right, we'll move on to reports.
All right,
Carlos.
just a couple of items to bring the commission aware. If you had noticed under your new membership thing, Jenna Nat is a resident, of course, of all of that, has been appointed to serve on the Plan Commission. She has some architectural background, so we'll serve as that. There has to be a position in the commission that has some either landscape or architectural background. And so it is a specialty position, and that is the position that she will serve in there. She will be starting in July. She was appointed by the council back in May, but already had commitments on the Thursdays on July, so excuse me, in June, so hasn't been able to attend. Then the council will have a work session July 1st, I believe, in which there are, I believe, 3 applications that have been submitted, and that position will be for a general resident. So I'm supposed to, by code, have 4 members that represent specific professions. Well, and the 4 members are here. Ms. Powell is a planner, Mr. Wallach is an attorney, Rob serving as an engineering background, and Tim as a contractor builder. And then actually there is a 5th.
As the next.
Yeah, so, and that really does help give us some specialty and expertise for staff to be able to utilize you guys in that process. So, and then we'll be back up and running. And I would assume, Ms. Powell, you will be that you have requested to be reappointed, because then it's a done deal on that aspect of it. So we do appreciate you volunteering your time in there. Couple,
Or the blue.
Yeah.
Dang.
time flies, I tell you. Just a couple of things to note. The city approved its most recent budget for this upcoming fiscal
More
year.
than a raise.
Times it by whatever you want.
A couple of things that I think, I mean, I know it's taking time, but they are important, and at least to keep them in the scope of mind. This fiscal year budget, or this fiscal year that we're currently in, we were, I believe, in I don't know, is that was $400,000-$700,000
Surplus?
no, deficit.
Damn.
This coming budget, we will be, the council brought that down to 200,000 in there. And the city of Olivet's been very fortunate that we have a pretty large reserve, and that reserve covers those excess expenditures in there. But we did lose a very prominent property that contributed both in terms of property and retail sales tax, and that was Enterprise in there, and that had a big impact. Fortunately, Emerson is taking up that property, but they won't be doing the same volume of sales that the Enterprise has. So hopefully that would then help us get us closer to a balance. But it's important because under the current projections, at least that were done for fiscal year 26, that reserve is going to eventually be going down and hit a point within 5 years, as there's no significant changes, that we have to do something in there. And I think that's the council's directing the city managers, that she's got to come up with some type of plan within the next 6 months of what we project, what would be the turnaround, and then what would be worst case scenario type of thing. And that 75% of our budget funds individuals, and all they're all hard workers in there. So it is important to take a look at that. We saw our sales tax revenue. Typically, the city, I always call it, operates on a 4-legged stool in terms of revenues: property tax, sales tax, utility tax, and then everything else in there. And usually it's always been around 25%, representing the entire revenue budget as a whole. utility tax has gone down as things have become more efficient. And then as the Public Service Commission deregulates a lot more items. So that one's always been a struggle. Property taxes, and you just got your property tax bills, so all your valuations go up.
Yeah.
Well, they impact your checkbook. They mean nothing for governments because we are restricted to the Hancock
Hancock
Amendment, and all we can do is go up the percentage of inflation. So even though you may have received a 20% increase in your property, the city of Olivet's is going to just see a 3% increase in terms of what we can tax it. So in those cases, we actually have to bring our property tax down, or the rate of the tax down to not exceed 3%. So as your property values go up, your actual property tax goes down. And I think that's reflective of all the other government entities that are in there. So it's always unique. So it's not like we get a windfall out of this.
How will the senior tax freeze affect?
That's a good question. I'm not the best person to answer that.
Well, I've been trying to get somebody to tell me, is it just for the county line item
Mhm.
of property tax, or is it all governmental entities?
I'll talk to Mr. Mann. He's a good person that you may have some, he's our finance director in there. Then the other component was retail sales tax. We have been very fortunate in the past 8 to 10 years. Retail sales tax, instead of being 25% of our budget, was taking up like over 37% of our budget. But now that we've had this change in this loss, we're back to 25. So you can see that all of it's really fortunate that we have 4 different sources of good revenue that are equal. Where like if you were in Richmond Heights and you were in a recession, that mall goes bad, there goes your budget. We are pretty well spread out. That's what makes all of that pretty unique. And again, we were pretty fortunate those past 8 years. Well, we had a tenant in there. Now we're back to where we should be in there. So again, not.
I do have a quick question, and it's like if my property taxes went up 10%, all of that could only increase it by 3%. Where's the extra 7% go?
It's all the other taxing districts.
Yeah, but they're
You're-
only
you're-
going up 3%, so.
Not
by-
yours.
Your
Everybody said
your
different.
housing value went up,
Yeah, not your tax.
not your tax.
Your tax rate.
Now, the other,
My property tax went up.
The property tax absolute value went up, but not percentage.
Well,
Yeah, that makes sense. Now you said it like that, yeah, because you're going up together,
Yeah.
basically.
But then what the allocation of those,
There's no new allocation because your percentages went up with your property value. So if it's
We're
100,000, you're
we're
getting
still paying
$10,000
whatever
in
percentage
tax.
it is.
No.
And it's divided up with everybody. They're getting 3% of that 100%,
Oh,
if you
okay.
want to say.
Okay.
At all times.
yeah, okay.
we want more.
Yeah.
I want more.
You want. Okay.
Special assessment.
Yeah.
and one of the good things about our council and our administrative staff too is like, this is like worst case scenario 5 years down the road. Things change, things fluctuate, and these things are expected. That's why we have a reserve policy to ring the bell that, hey, don't wait till 5 years from now. Start thinking about these.
Yeah.
And I
Well, and
think
you never
that's-
know when the next tornado comes through, if it hits us instead of,
And that's an issue for like Clayton, for example, right
Yeah,
now. They're having
huge.
to, deal with that. And to Carlos's point, the reserve fund has to be 50% of our, I would argue, general fund. So not all other funds, because public, like sewer lateral takes care of itself and other ones take care of itself. But we're projected within 5 years to not be within, we set our own precedent that below it. So the city manager has 6 months to come back and tell us how we're going to do it. Is it going to be new revenues, or is it going to be reductions in spend, or what?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Gotcha.
A couple other things, work's progressing pretty well up at the Olive Crossing. As you can see, a lot of the foundation work is set on what we call Lot 3 in there. We met the owners of the Brass Tap. They stopped by City Hall yesterday, young couple, and they're really anxious and eager to get that going. Their hope is to be in there by November, and we're kind of crossing our fingers that schedule can be maintained. The council renegotiated the developers agreement for Olive Crossing, and one of the criteria is by September 1st, the petition for the hotel development has to be in there, at least in in application and then starting the review. That doesn't mean before the commission. Or so I'll get some clarification, but the council is making that process move forward. Lot 5, which is the office building structure, that is still an unknown. The developer was given some additional time to try to get that coordinated, but you know, the office market is unique right now. That's all the best I can describe it as. A lot of great planning things that have happened the past couple of months. One is that the region prepared a regional gas emissions plan, and there are a lot of it reflects some of the goals and objectives of our comprehensive plan, and we'll bring those to the commission over time. The county also adopted their comprehensive plan. A lot of their goals and objectives kind of reflect those of our comprehensive plan. Pre-Corps is in the process of updating their comprehensive plan because of the bear sites. We had a little discussion about that before the meeting. In there, they held a public hearing, so just so you're aware of those activities going on. And outside of that, do you have anything else? All right, and be glad to answer any questions on specific developments or things.
How's this
Yeah.
property going? What is the deal?
It is, I think, it is moving slowly. We are on the developer to get, and we're hoping that framing will start within the next week or two on building 7. He did indicate that he has 2 units already sold in there, but I'm not sure if that's all in building 7 or building 6 too in there. On other note, I guess in there, I know their architect has a couple of other big projects going on at the same time. So we're kind of been going back and forth waiting for the final plan sets to get completed in there.
How long has that been? How long it's been since we approved that, do you think?
Good question. I want to say that the initial plans probably started around COVID. I'd like to say it wasn't any earlier than 2022 when we started getting the review set and all that.
Yeah, I mean, if I was the neighbor behind there,
Mm-hmm.
I would be furious right now. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this is out of control already. So I don't know what we can
Understand.
do about it, but it just seems, I don't know.
It'd be nice to see those up.
And we can try to coordinate with the developer and even bring back an update if we in there. On that. And then the last thing, sorry. So our next meeting will be July 17th. As of date, I'm not aware of any petitions that have been submitted in there. By the 17th, we should have a full commission in there, and then the review of any petition applications if there are so. Then we'll have a 2-week break, and then our first meeting in August will be August 7th. What I'd like to do is ensure that at least in that August 7th meeting, we do not have any action items in place, and would like to invite Stephanie Carr, our city attorney, and that we have a discussion, given that we have all new, a couple of members that have started within the past couple of years, but an opportunity for you guys to ask questions in there, and also with staff to talk about the process, your roles, and things, get some feedback from you guys. And then also if you guys have questions for the city attorney on how the whole operation works, what is the site plan process, and what can you deny, what can you not deny, things like that.
That'd be great.
Open format. We also will have to elect officers now that we would be in a full staffing level, and then of course our next scheduled meeting would be August 21st. So that being said, we could do that July 17th if nothing's been submitted as of date, but things always pop up. But I would like to keep that August 7th reserved as the date that we have that kind of workshop.
That's great.
I'm gonna be out of town that week on the 7th.
Okay.
I'd really like to be part of that meeting,
Well,
but
and
I don't
then-
want to hold everybody else
attorney.
up.
Especially,
Bear with me.
especially if you get nominated for chairman.
Yeah, there's been
That would be
rumors.
If you're not here, you can, if you're not here, you can put you in.
Do I hear any objection?
Okay, well, in theory, the deadline for the 17th would have been last week.
I think anything that is not submitted now would not make sense.
Okay, so we could do,
July.
We have to give them 30 days.
yeah, and that's, you know, so.
Being in July, we have no meeting.
Well, I don't want to say that yet. You have meeting, but we don't have any active petitions that I'm aware of as of yet. We'll have to double check that. And sometimes little things come up that we try to like get them in there. But that being said, I could check with Ms. Carr. I haven't asked her. I brought I brought it up to the city manager in there, but I haven't asked like if her schedule would be.
Okay, if that's the only day that works, I can
It was
join
the one I was throwing out,
virtually.
so.
If we have to. but
I
there's
think it
any
would be important.
flexibility.
I would like to have you in there and you're, you know, it's important for us to know some of the comments and things. The other thing is to kind of, what I always hear from attorneys is like, it'd be good to have some idea of what type of questions you have. So if there are things that you would like to ask Ms. Carr and all that, you know, draft them up and all that, and we can make sure she has them in advance. That way she's prepared to answer, or you're gonna get, it depends. So, so that's all I had. Sorry, Councilman.
Mm.
We do not-
Go ahead.
Carlos mentioned the 3 people, applications as of now that will interview on 7/1. So hopefully then we'll make a selection right afterwards and we'll be fully staffed, which is great. The budget we talked about, we did have all of that night out, June 17th, I think it was. So Carlos and I got to ride around with Chief Carmen, and they didn't let me drive the fire truck, but you know, got to go to like 5 neighborhoods, which was great. So it was good to see, kind of get out there. It was warm, of course, but it was nice to see the different communities. And got to see Jody's sister actually. So
Okay.
Just an update: Olive and Old Bonham, that curb right there, that's damaged all the time, right near Stacy Park, or the reservoir. Ameren has asked us to do something with, help them, because a lot of times trucks are turning in there and clipping it and the curb gets keeping up. So we're still working on that, but it's likely that we will modify that curb and push it back, and then also be thinking about signage, because I think we want to put in a sign that's a little more, that has electric capability, so we could actually, run things through versus the manual one that gets updated now. But most importantly, that does not slow down or stop the repaving of Olive Boulevard in the fall. So that is coming.
Fantastic.
So everyone's very excited about that. So
Fantastic.
yeah, Olive will be paving in the fall, and then obviously the boil order. Just it's unfortunate for north of Olive for us, but I think it was about 48 hours, a little less. So that was a bigger issue with the camp at 5 Oaks and things like that. So. And here, that's true, yes. But I was thinking about the little kids, Jack. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, but
Was it a water main break?
it was a 20-inch water main break up in Overland, North Midland. Yeah, but it was significant.
You have to close down if you can't have hot water. I mean, if it's.
We weren't sure how the restaurants were impacted in there.
They like a
You're
book on the road
supposed,
shut
you're
down there.
supposed to, is
They're
there?
supposed to,
yes.
Thinking.
Absolutely.
What, water.
You can't-
Well, they had
can't wash
bottled
your
water
hands,
here.
exactly.
Bottled water here. Washing hands was okay. It was just you shouldn't drink it. But I'm curious how the rest. I'm curious how like what north of here. I guess I'm trying to think which.
They kept on going, but
Chevy.
yeah, by code, you should have shut down.
All right.
100%.
Okay. Big thank you for Summer Nights being here. I'm glad we're gonna have 3 more members. Well, not 3 more members, but a full docket pretty soon. So,
Good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Any other further discussion? Jack, you want to tell us about any baseball games that you've been to? No?
Too hot to go.
Hockey season over.
All right, then we'll adjourn at 8:49. Thanks, everybody. This is a big agenda.
Huge. I said to Yona,